The TMIS Oerstedt, deemed infallible by the fixtures who built it, was now at the mercy of the monstrous waves thrashing against her hull. It seemed this would be a journey as savage as the peoples we set out to help. I knew of their ancestry. I'd read the books, but nothing could have prepared me for those first steps onto their isle. Oversized flora grew in patches, untamed and unmanageable. Insects and arachnids, common in the motherland, were enormous, the weight of their exoskeletons threatening to crush the supple flesh beneath. It's no wonder that the explorers of antiquity thought themselves in a land of giants, or indeed that they had shrunk when arriving upon these shores. I would be remiss, however, to keep meandering about the flora and fauna. Magic shall pique the interest of all. Buildings and landmasses, I would come to find, sat at impossible angles upon this isle. Temples floated as if buoyant in the air itself. The locals, unbound by the fundamental force on which their school is based, gravity. Such a thing does not exist here, at least not in the natural sense. But upon my arrival, all I could see of their culture was a small outpost stationed at the dock, a tall cliff obscuring all else. Natural. I paused on the slab of rock, questioning its origin. These dinosaurs, Pangeans, I believe is the current correct name, can trace their ability to manipulate gravity to the beginning of their ancestry. And they are beings of antiquity. The Pangeans vary more between individuals because of their unique evolution. They are hybrids. Any Pangean, although anthropomorphic, could exhibit one or two traits from any of the prehistoric lizards, their ancestors that we know of today. One such Pangean greeted me as we docked. Their sex was indiscriminate to me, bearing a crested head and a back rigid with protrusions like spines. I could comprehend the biology used to create such a creature, but if I were a man of weaker constitution, I would have lost consciousness. However, in juxtaposition to its appearance, the diplomacy and gentleness of its speech were courtly, and we exchanged pleasantries and observations of my arduous journey despite difficulties in translation. Zakar was the name of the creature, Pangean. He was in command of the isle. After breaking the ice with small talk, the matter of my business here became the focal point of the conversation. Like their blood, the Pangean's temperament can be cold. It was his turn to be baffled. He knew little of our magic as I attempted to explain the fundamentals of electromagnetism. Unfortunately, my limited knowledge did not enlighten him. But it was not my duty to teach. I was here to create. A communication device, I explained to him, was my purpose for being here. To plant the seeds of our culture's growth together, and bringing them into the modern world was my mandate. My presence on the isle was not uncontested, however. Many of the Pangeans stood against our so-called civility, and a gaggle of Newtonmancers had formed a not insignificant insurgent group. It seems we were lucky to avoid falling prey to Caribbean whirlpools created by their numbers. About 15 feet from the shore, the sheer cliff face stood. I craned my neck to see around it in either direction, but Zakar informed me it loops around the entire island, and their settlement sits atop. It is no surprise then that these peoples went undetected for centuries. Without their magic, it would be difficult to even reach their country. When stepping off my boat, my feet hit the sand, and it would be no exaggeration to say that each individual grain vibrated against my feet. In the safety of my vessel, sight was the only sense communicating to me the scope of their magic. To feel it was a terrifying experience. The speed at which the car outpaced me and the difference between our gates showed me that the Pangeans' mastery of their magic trumped ours by at least tenfold. I followed the car, eager to begin my mission, with my pack of tools lighter in my arms. Be that from excitement or Zakar's aid, I'll never know. I must say, I became used to the ground beneath me quickly, and could soon keep pace with my Pangean escort. The cliff face approaching us was monolithic. A single platform jutted out of the rock face. Upon further reflection, I could trace a faint discoloration from that point to the foot of the cliff. My observation soon ended with Zakar's gaze upon me, and a strange sense of anguish permeating the air. We reached a line of darker sand about 3 feet from the cliff before Zakar spoke. "There. Stand very still." Zakar's instructions froze me in my tracks, still unused to the sound of our language escaping a reptilian throat, and the broken way in which Zakar spoke. I realized at this point that it was indeed my language, if not accurate, and shame washed over me, as I realized I had spoken a great deal upon our first meeting and thought him dumb. Where these people learned it, I hadn't the faintest, and I had no time to query before Zakar threw his arms in the air, and the very land beneath us rose from the ground, ascending the cliff face. In my homeland, we are all accustomed to moving horizontally, some even at rapid speeds. But now a whole new access presented itself to me, guided by Zakar. My body repudiated the unnatural ascension in a way that made me feel rather ill. I thought becoming accustomed to this was impossible. The world today indicates how naive I once was. As we ascended, our platform's circumference was tightening, packing us together such that the beating of his heart thumped against my own chest. Zakar lowered his arms, and our platform slowed. I struggled to contain my excitement as the platform reached its destination. I stood on my toes and craned my head to catch any glimpse just a second sooner. There was no anticlimax. I stood there, almost dumbfounded by the amazing sight before me.